Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Motown Exile. My name's Ryan Relkin. Today, we're going to talk about what it means to be a Detroit Lions fan and why we hang on every decision made by this team. If you're a Detroit Lions fan by now, you've probably heard about the comments made by Detroit Lions great wide receiver Amon Ra St Brown this past week when he was on his podcast, the St. Brown Brothers podcast, with his brother Equanimous. And on the podcast, he was discussing the Lion fans and how they have reacted to the hiring of Drew Petzing, the new offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions. Here are the comments by Amon Ra right here.
Do you guys have no trust in Dan? In the Lions, you think they would just hire a random dude? Be for real. You think they don't know what they're doing? They don't do the research. They don't interview. Most of you guys don't know really much about anything, about any ball.
Wow. Wow.
And you're tweeting about a coach that was hired that you guys don't like because of XYZ. It's just funny to me to see. Don't get me wrong. I love all Lions fans, but they are so quick to make, judgments about who we hired, who we did this. Bro, just relax, calm down, let the whole thing play out. You guys just let it play out. Just relax. That's all I gotta say. Relax, man. Relax.
So I like to see myself as a cup half full person. So I'm going to start with what I see as the positives about what Amon Ra said in that clip there with his brother. The first thing that I want to say is that I love the confidence that Amon Ra has in his head coach. We all want to believe in Dan Campbell. I think for the most part, we do believe in Dan Campbell. He has taken this team to heights that we haven't seen hardly ever in the history of this team. So on that part, I do love that he trusts his head coach. Okay. On the other hand, I don't like the condescending tone of his comment, and I don't like the detached way that it sounds. He's a player, right? He's talking like a player. He is sharing his perspective as a player, but he also sounds a little bit disconnected from what it's like to be a Detroit Lions fan. Now, let me preface, having a winning football team is not the most important thing in the world in the grand scheme of things, okay? I know I hear it all the time. Well, why don't you just pick a different team? Why do you get so mad? Why do you get so upset? Why do you care so much? And I think it's because Lions fans, fans of all the major Detroit teams, but especially Lions fans, I think we identify personally with this team. And I think that the way that they dug themselves out and the way that Dan Campbell has talked about grit and the way that he's talked about biting kneecaps and the way that he's kind of underestimated. I think that Lions fans have really bought into that story. I think that Lions fans really can relate to that. And I think that that's one of the reasons that we have gotten behind Dan Campbell. But in the last few years, some things have kind of happened where it's felt like we maybe were good enough to get there. We get to that NFC Championship game. We have a big lead at halftime, and then we blow that lead. I remember at halftime saying to my son that I don't believe it. We're going to actually go to the Super Bowl. And I probably jinxed the whole thing when I said that. And then the following year, we go 15-2, but it kind of felt like it was just, I don't know, like a house built on toothpicks or something. I don't think it felt like the bubble was going to burst with all the injuries that we had on defense. And that day finally came in the first round of the playoffs against the Washington Commanders. So it was a tough pill to swallow, but then we lose our coordinators coming into the season, Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. It doesn't seem like we make some of the additions that we need to make, especially adding some help for Aiden Hutchinson on the edge on the defensive side of the ball. It also feels like some of the draft picks from the last few years are not providing the depth that they should be providing at this point in their careers. And then we have the big atomic bomb dropped on us when Frank Ragnow retires. So the Lions all of a sudden are left trying to figure out their offensive line. And for a while, things looked pretty good. I was at the game in Cincinnati with my family, and I thought the Lions looked great. The next week, they go out to Kansas City and they lay an egg. And it became a pattern after that game where it was win, lose, win, lose, win, lose. And it felt like the needs of the team, having not been addressed, were catching up to the team. And one of the failures of the last offseason was Dan Campbell's hiring of John Morton. John Morton, by the time the Washington Commanders game came along, had lost his ability to call plays. And if we're going to get in our DeLorean and go back in time, let me remind all of you, if you've forgotten, that that John Morton at that time was the third offensive coordinator that Dan Campbell has hired. Now, he hit it out of the park with Ben Johnson. Absolutely nailed it with Ben Johnson. And as a fan, I know a lot of people are bitter towards Ben Johnson. I see it as a success story for the Detroit Lions. I'm proud of Ben Johnson. I'm proud of what he's done as a Chicago Bears head coach. And just because he's not there, it doesn't mean that we can't recapture that lightning in a bottle. Okay, so it's not that we don't trust Dan Campbell. It's that Dan Campbell is basically 1 for 3 now. And so I think a lot of fans fell in love with some of the other people who were available at offensive coordinator. I don't have a problem with Drew Petzing. As a matter of fact, some of the things that I've seen and heard about him, I like. I do live in Arizona, so I've heard a lot from my Cardinal fan friends who have told me they don't know what Dan Campbell was thinking by hiring this guy. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt because I do trust Dan Campbell. But I feel like I have to educate Amon Ra St Brown about why we care so much. And I kind of want to shame him a little bit for what he said, that we don't know ball, that we're crazy. All right. So, and we all have day jobs, right? We all go to those jobs and we all approach them in a little different way than we approach other parts of our lives. That's our profession. I have a profession. I'm an educator. Okay. Amon Ra St Brown is a football player and a hell of a football player. My favorite player. He is the guy that I look to and have the most faith in on this entire team, on the whole roster. He's the guy that I believe in. So I was disappointed to hear his tone and hear him be so dismissive with the fans. And I'm not sure that he's been paying attention, but we've never been this close before. I mean, we got this close one time for 1 year. When I was a freshman in high school in 1991, the Detroit Lions went 12-4, and we destroyed the Dallas Cowboys. Destroyed them in a home playoff game. But that year, the Washington Redskins, now the Commanders, were a juggernaut. They were on fire, and they put a whooping on us in Washington, in RFK Stadium, in the NFC Championship game. And I remember being very disappointed at the end of that game. However, I thought we would be back. We didn't make it back until 2023. It took over 30 years to get back. As a matter of fact, maybe he has forgotten in the last few years, but we didn't even win another playoff game until he and his team beat the Los Angeles Rams at Ford Field. And then the next week came out and beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and very nearly went on the road and put themselves into Las Vegas in the Super Bowl that year. So, no disrespect to Amon Ra St Brown, he's entitled to his opinion. But there is a long history of Lions teams letting Lions fans down. And I don't want to sound hyperbolic here, but I have to say this. Fans of the Detroit Lions are literally dying without ever seeing this team even play in the championship game. I mean, playing it. And these players, they come and they go. And I want Amon Ra St Brown, I want his number retired. I want him to go on that wall of fame. I want him to be known as one of the greatest Detroit Lions of all time, which I think he already just about has that locked up. But when he goes on that field and he goes and competes for this team, I want him to remember that his success on the field, when he goes out there, he is carrying the hopes and dreams of all the Detroit Lions fans, those who are with us and those who are not. So yeah, we care too much, and yeah, we might sound a little bit crazy. Well, the word fan means fanatic. But I'm telling you something, we know ball. Maybe not the way that you do, because that's your profession. But we know what good ball looks like, and we definitely know what terrible football looks like. So Amon Ra St Brown, I hope that you have had a chance to think about your comments, and I hope that you've had a chance to really understand that what you said, I disagree with 100%. And your cavalier tone, it was insulting. So that brings us to the end of another edition of Motown Exile. My name is Ryan Relkin. I hope you liked what you saw and what you heard. If you'd please do us all a very big favor and slap that like button. Also subscribe. We'd love to have you share, and please comment below. Look for more videos coming up in the near future. Again, this is Motown Exile, and my name is Ryan Relkin. We'll see you next time.